Priti Patel has challenged those who've spoken out against her plan to send those who illegally cross the channel to Rwanda to come up with a better idea to tackle that growing number of small boat crossings. In an article in The Times, the Home Secretary reiterated that the controversial plans were bold and innovative after opposition politicians and human rights campaigners slammed the move. Well, yesterday, the Archbishop of Canterbury gave a stinging intervention, criticising the policy, saying that it was the job of a Christian country to not subcontract our responsibilities. Well, what does Parliament make of that? Joining me now is the Conservative MP for Ipswich, Tom Hunt. Welcome to the programme, Tom. This was an announcement that has clearly made waves, although potentially not in the way that the government was hoping or expecting. There's been at least one opinion poll that shows that a plurality of Brits oppose the idea of this offshore processing in Rwanda. How do you think it will go down in Parliament when you return tomorrow?
I don't agree with that. I think I saw one poll which had a very one poll, and then I saw another poll. I think it was by Survation, where it was clear public support for it. So I mean, the poll that I've seen had clear public backing for what's been proposed. I think that the Archbishop of Canterbury, he will comment. He'll decide to comment from time to time. I think it was disappointing that he decided to make the comments that he did on Easter Sunday. I think it's a deeply complex matter. I think he showed not a great understanding of the issue at hand. But I don't think it will have what he said will have any effect on the wider public and how they think about it. Most Conservative MPs are behind what was announced last week, apart from a very small minority of Conservative MPs who have always been part of the awkward squad.
And let's go through what exactly this plan means, because there was some confusion before it was announced about whether this would be offshore processing with those then who passed the processing, who were genuine refugees. Would they return to the UK? But as the dust has settled, it appears that no. Everyone sent to Rwanda who has crossed the channel in small boats, it's a one-way ticket. None of them will return to the UK.
Good. It's always been my understanding that was the case. I don't know whether some people didn't know that, but I had a briefing of the policy, and that was my understanding that once they were in Rwanda, which of course is a safe country, then they can't apply for asylum in the UK. Why would they? Because Rwanda is a safe country. I think that's a good bit of news that's come out, and not a bad bit of news.
And certainly there will be the criticism from others, potentially on the benches opposite, particularly the Labour Party, that this is a cruel move, that people are making that journey across the channel, potentially with less than complete information, with being told lies by criminal gangs, being extorted out of money by these people smugglers, trying to come to Britain to claim asylum. Well, those people with less than perfect information, they might be punished by this move.
Well, I think the key thing is they are safe in France, and they're also safe in the numerous other European countries they've presumably come through to get to France. So, if they've got concerns about Rwanda, then I would, which they shouldn't do because it's a safe country, I would encourage them to claim asylum in France or one of those other safe European countries. The key thing there is that we make this route unviable. It's an incredibly dangerous route across the English Channel, an incredibly busy shipping lane. A number of individuals have already lost their life, and we have to make it unviable, and we can do that by making a deterrent. And the deterrent must be sending out a message. There's no point trying to get into our country illegally because you'll never be able to stay here. It's what they did in Australia. It was a message that was understood, and it's a message that worked. Australia now doesn't have a problem with illegal immigration in the way that it did before it introduced offshore processing.
It's interesting listening to how the Home Secretary has been pitching this policy, saying that those who are criticising it, well, at least it's one way to deal with the problem that I think everyone across the political spectrum acknowledges is a problem. The number of crossings across the Channel has been growing year on year. The Prime Minister last week admitted that the number next year is expected to be higher than it was last year. I suppose the question is, how quickly can this be implemented? It's expected to be challenged in the courts. Will it have a meaningful impact on numbers? Will it be able to save lives in short order?
I think the aim is to try and get the first planes going to Rwanda in about 4 weeks, 5 weeks or 6 weeks. I think that is the aim. I know you touched upon the fact that opponents of the scheme, they do not have any alternative plans at all. Anything they suggest has got huge shortcomings. They say there needs to be more safe and legal routes. Well, what happens to those who apply and are unsuccessful? More than likely, they'll still try and come across illegally via the same route, so it won't deal with this problem. And for those who say, "Oh, we'll just get the French to take them back," the French aren't taking them back. This is the only way I can see of us dealing with a problem. So, frankly, either they their plans are false and don't work and they haven't thought about it, or they support open door immigration policy. And they're anti any kind of immigration control, which is a view, not a view I support. But if they believe in that, they should just be honest to make the case for that. But yeah, I hope that within the next 4 or 6 weeks, we're going to see some action. The government seem to be confident that they've got the legal basis to do everything they want to do. Clearly, if there are any challenges, we'll have to deal with them as and then. But I do not underestimate the fact that there are a number of human rights lawyers, opposition, Keir Starmer, individuals like that who are anti-immigration control and are pro-open border. So they will try and do their best to try and scupper what a Prime Minister is looking to do in implementing what I believe the majority of British people want, which is an immigration system we're in control of. It's not saying we don't want to be compassionate against refugees who are coming here from fleeing persecution, but we've got to have control of who comes in. At the moment, we don't have control over who comes in. The people smugglers have control over who comes in. This is a policy which is profoundly anti-people smuggler, and that is the right thing to be.
No, I think it is a compelling point that you make there, that people who claim they're not in favour of open borders but then oppose every single measure that would prevent open borders, it does lead only one conclusion to be drawn, really. Just finally in this conversation, Tom Hunt, Parliament returns tomorrow after almost 2.5 weeks of being away. Quite a lot has changed in those 2.5 weeks, not least your party leader, the Prime Minister, and indeed the Chancellor, receiving COVID fines. The Prime Minister expected to make an address to Parliament tomorrow addressing that very issue. What do you hope that the Prime Minister will say?
Well, he's already apologised to the public. I presumably in his statement tomorrow he'll apologise to Parliament and explain to Parliament what had happened. And I'm looking forward to that. The reality is, particularly that one incident, we know what happened, and it wasn't good. It wasn't a good incident, but we've had an apology. The Prime Minister's taking responsibility for it, and I really think we need to start focusing on these other massive issues, because I don't really know what is going to be achieved by having another number of weeks. We've also got this week in Parliament. I believe on Wednesday we've got the Nationality and Borders Bill coming back to Parliament from the House of Lords. That is of greater interest to me than what happens tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be important. Don't get me wrong. I'll be listening. I'll be in the chamber. But and I'm not going to comment upon any other events that may or may not have happened. I've seen some reports in the newspaper saying that the Prime Minister may have been at other events and that's just unnamed sources, and that could be Dominic Cummings, who's briefing that. But time will tell. I can only comment upon the one event we know about, and the Prime Minister will be making a statement about that tomorrow.